Good morning and welcome to the daily devotion here at Mount Gilead Church. My name is Mike Bridgewater and I'm the Operations Director here at the church building, and today is February 19th, 2021. Today we'll make our way through chapter 7 of the book of Hebrews and learn why the priesthood, according to the order of Melchizedek, is greater than the Levitical priesthood. Last week I introduced this chart to help us understand the timeline. And one thing to remember is that those first century Jews that received this letter would still be able to go up to the temple and see the priests making sacrifices. The sacrifices didn't end at the temple until it was leveled by the Romans in AD 70. You might have noticed in the introduction that I included a few clips from a mission trip to Africa, and it showed a broken bridge over the Runde River. That bridge is on the border between Zimbabwe and Mozambique, and you may be asking yourself, why did I put those clips of a broken bridge at the beginning of this devotion? Well, I'm glad you asked. The Latin word for priest is pontifex, and it actually means bridge builder. In simple terms, the job of the priest is to build a bridge between God and man through the offering of a sacrifice. As an example, we see this at the beginning of the book of Job, as Job was like the priest for his family. In Job 1:5, it says, "When the days of the feasting had completed their cycle, Job would send and consecrate them, rising up early in the morning and offering burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, 'Perhaps my sons have sinned and cursed God in their hearts.' Thus Job did continually." As we learned last week, the Levitical priests were set up in Exodus chapter 28, and was decreed by God that only Aaron and his sons from the tribe of Levi would serve as priests. Basically, if you were a male descendant from the line of Aaron, you were guaranteed a job in the priesthood. In chapter 7, the writer makes 4 arguments for the priesthood according to Melchizedek being greater than the Levitical priesthood. They are the blessing received by Abraham, the paying of tithes by Abraham, the perpetual nature of the priesthood according to Melchizedek, and the replacement of the Levitical system. The first 2 are pretty easy to understand, and they go back to the meeting between Abraham and Melchizedek in Genesis 14. Melchizedek blesses Abraham, and Abraham pays tithes to Melchizedek. The writer then provides some commentary about this in the first part of chapter 7, with his point being in verse 7, the lesser person is blessed by the greater, and in verses 9 and 10 makes the connection that even Levi and his descendants had paid tithes to Melchizedek because they were in the loins of their forefather Abraham. The writer then proceeds to the more difficult to explain reasons. Number 3, the perpetual nature of the priesthood according to Melchizedek, and the replacement of the Levitical system. This can lead us to some questions like, what does according to the order mean? Was Melchizedek an appearance of Jesus in the Old Testament? Was Melchizedek some kind of immortal? What does it mean without genealogy, without father or mother? What about the law? The Bible gives us a few details about Melchizedek. In verse 2, we are told his name means King of Righteousness and King of Peace. So he is a priest of the Most High God and a king priest. Then verse 4, we learn that Melchizedek is a man, actually a great man, because as we saw earlier, the patriarch Abraham paid tithes to him. The statements regarding his parentage relate to the fact that within the written record there is no mention of his parentage or when he was born or when he died, which is in contrast to that of Aaron. Aaron's lineage is from the tribe of Levi, and his death is detailed in Numbers 20. Melchizedek was also a priest of the Most High God on merit, not by decree or not by inheritance. This chart shows the difference between the priesthood according to the order of Aaron and that of the order of Melchizedek. The order of Aaron was by decree and inheritance. It was temporary because the priest died, and they were priests only. The order of Melchizedek, by merit, was perpetual, and they were a king and a priest. The last argument that the writer makes is the replacement of the Levitical system. And this also takes us back to the beginning of the timeline chart in Genesis chapter 49. And the deathbed promise from Jacob to his son Judah, through the covenant with King David in Psalm 110 to Jesus. He makes this argument in verses 11 through 19, with his point being that since this new forever priest is from a different tribe, from Judah and not from Levi, there is a necessity for there to be a change of the law also. And the writer concludes by stating in verses 18 and 19, there is the nullification of a former commandment because of its weakness and uselessness, for the law made nothing perfect. On the other hand, there is the introduction of a better hope through which we can come near to God. So let's look at a couple verses from Romans chapter 3 and Galatians chapter 3 to help us understand that the law reveals our sinfulness and our need for salvation freely offered through the promise. Romans 3:20, because by the works of the law no flesh will be justified in his sight, for through the law comes the knowledge of sin. And then in Galatians 3:21 it says, is the law then contrary to the promise of God? May it never be. For if a law had been given which was able to impart life, then righteousness would indeed have been based on the law. But the Scripture has shut up everyone under sin, so that the promise by faith in Jesus Christ might be given to those who believe. Jesus is a better hope through which we can come nearer to God. In the old system, the Levitical system, only the priest could go behind the veil and get near to God. But as we have learned in these chapters leading up to this, Jesus, the steadfast anchor for our soul, secured in heaven, is our pioneer, blazing the trail for us to follow beyond the veil, interceding for us and providing access to the throne of grace. We'll learn more about the priesthood according to Jesus next week when we get to the main point of the letter in chapter 8, which is the new covenant. We'll be continuing this weekend on Sunday in the book of Exodus. Last week, the Israelites miraculously made it out of Egypt, getting through the Red Sea, and in the process, destroying the armies of Pharaoh. What's next for Moses? Is it only happy days ahead? Well, maybe not. Join us this Sunday at 9 or 10:30 and find out what's next. We've gotten all the snow pushed off the driveway, so come early, see some friends, and have some hot coffee with us in the cafe. Bye-bye.